So union contracts coming up next year. We have the regional contract coming up next year. What there's so many things I want to say on this topic.
I knew you were going to ask that question. I had this conversation a little while ago.
Just
Basically,
horrible. It's real, like what they do, and the people you work with that are supervisory in nature, they help, and they try to mitigate things, but on the ground, it's like a war zone, a trash war zone, and it's like they're throwing the trash like they're in the Olympics, and it has gotten slightly better, but it's not good enough for us to justify a renewal. Like we have to like plan for something else. I don't know. It's not if we do a ward based or every 2 wards a RFP for that, like maybe regional can't do the whole city, especially the recycling night. Recycling night is just like it's a war zone. It's especially on a windy day, and I know part of that is the responsibility of like the homeowners and the residents, but it's really difficult for them to do what they're doing and for us to continue to do what we're doing. Like the definition of insanity is like keep doing the same thing, and I tried to give them a chance, but I just want to voice my frustrations and see if there's a contingency plan for trash pickup, recycling, something to help with the mitigation of the streets.
we actually looked at Nortech's
Sanitation
hybrid
inspectors.
plan,
Sorry.
where it was kind of like a cooperative. Some was done internally, and they used a vendor. Even if we did a so-called hybrid type operation, I think the startup cost would be probably $14 or $15 million just to purchase the equipment. This is related to recycling end. And then, we've had numerous meetings with the company. I now have Rich Venezia, who is the full-time guy that handles the complaints. And believe me, I get calls from all of the members of the council, and 90% of the calls I get is related to that trash compact as contract. The contract that is coming up for renewal, I believe it's next year. But I think the problem's going to be the availability of another company to bid on it. It's kind of like they self-regulate. I don't go to your territory and you don't go to mine. So chances are, and there again, I could be off base on it, that we may have the only respondent to the contract being regional because of the capabilities. I think a lot of it has to do with the overnight component, and there's no way in heck that we could ever do daytime collections. The traffic would not permit it.
Yeah.
It just would be totally prohibitive. But the other problem I think they have is that maintaining employees. There's a huge turnover. And from what regional tells us, they've raised their starting salaries, but I think the fact that they're pretty much at-will employees, there's really no union protection or anything like that. That's a problem. I mean, I've checked them at night myself, where I've seen you have a driver and a helper, where at normal pickup times they should have at least two additional people on the truck to assist, but that's not the case. So that obviously takes longer to get the pickup done. We also have a problem with a lot of residents using the sidewalk waste receptacles for personal garbage. Where our people go out, we'll empty them. Sometimes we're doing this 2 and 3 times a day. So it's a headache. It's a major headache. But moving forward, I mean, these are all things I think when the RFP goes out, all your concerns has to be in there. And then it's kind of like a wait and see what type of respondents we get back. At this point, taking it on as a city operation, it would require a tremendous amount of money. There again, we're dealing with the same pool of people that, would be interested in doing that type of work. I think the salaries obviously is an issue. So,
We got to wean ourselves off from regional. I just don't feel like they're cutting the mustard here, and they should either upgrade their equipment so that the trash truck, the garbage truck picks up the garbage and puts it on their own.
Yeah, I know what you're saying.
Right. you've seen it in other like
Mhm.
civilized countries, and they should upgrade their equipment, or they should upgrade their training. They should do something that is different than what the status quo is.
That's why I say, I think when we start the RFP process, then, it might be good to hear your individual concerns so that can be included, something like that. I've seen that, the mechanical trucks where they actually pick it up. There's really no human component, it's done from the driver's seat and, I guess it works in some smaller areas. The other problem we have is that we have many times the trucks are not able to access the areas because of parking issues.
Yeah.
People park illegally, and the truck can't effectively get down to pick the garbage up, which creates more of a time problem. So they're supposed to be in and out of here in a certain period of time, but many times we find them on the street during the height of the rush hour, with school buses and everything else. So it only creates more problems. Getting back to when we start the RFP process, I think, it'd be a good idea to get your concerns and get that included. If it's something that they can do and it would work, we should certainly look at it.
The sanitation inspectors, I know that you had made the recommendation a few years back. Like, have we made any progress on?
No, I think what I'd like to do is that we've mentioned this in the past. There's two things to look at. Having our own in-house sanitation inspectors is good for two reasons. For instance, if you call up and you want a property ordered up or you want a lot cleaned, what we have to do is make that notification to Joe Barrow and his folks. And most of the time, they're pretty responsive. They'll get on it right away. But there's a gap, So when we had our own in-house inspectors, we would, if they run out of recycling, actually there and sanitation, where we could send them immediately there. They would issue the violation, and we could immediately take action. So, we tried. Joe and his crew works pretty good with us, but I think there's also, in my opinion, based on the amount of complaints we get related to sanitation, there's a revenue loss there, where if people who are habitual offenders are not receiving those summonses, there's a loss of revenue. And I think the best way to get people to compliance is to cite them. Oh, really? I mean, it's unfortunate, but on what I've seen is that people years ago they would take pride and clean up their area, clean up this. You don't see that anymore. They'll be walking down the street with a wrapper and just throw it in the street. And another thing we look to do is Director Dublin had identified some funding sources that we could potentially bring back, either seasonal or part-time, more or less like litter patrols, throughout the city. I know that's a big thing, especially in the commercial areas. So that's something we'd like to, introduce. I've had discussions with the VA on it. He seemed pretty, enthusiastic about it. So moving forward, I think we're looking to do that, at this next cycle.
Greg, you can tell when it's garbage night on my block. All you gotta do is follow the garbage laid in the street. They drop all over the street. They don't bother picking up. Go down to North Carolina, where my sons are. They drop a piece of paper. They have a machine that comes out, picks up the garbage cans. People aren't doing it. A piece of paper falls on the floor. The driver gets out and picks it up. Here, they just leave the garbage in the street. It's a shame.
Yeah, that's what Councilman Soleil had. I mean, if that's something that's feasibly possible, if that should be included in the RFP, that as opposed to having, it's got to save them money also if they have that type of equipment, where I would imagine it would require a change of containers.
Yeah.
For city residents, that the areas that I've seen them in, it's mostly smaller areas where it's a specialized container and it's a side pickup on the truck. I mean, these are all things that we should be able to, fine tune before the RFP is put out, and then go from there.
So can we, could you document this? Can we at least try to start with 2 sanitation inspectors for DPW? I know there's been a conversation before. Last year was a conversation, but it seemed like the sanitation department is with Regency is not improving. So maybe we need to just try the inspectors to go behind Regency in some way to see if that will improve, because based on what I'm hearing too, they have like some type of respect for companies, you're saying. So if we do put out an RFP, the only person that may apply is Regency, because the other companies are not going to apply because they feel like Regency is the one that dominates this area,
Yeah, they,
based on what I heard you say. So then it's like, then what can we do to improve, you know, our trash pickup? Because they're going to apply again. If what you're saying is true and you know the industry, they're going to be the only ones that apply again. So what can we do to pretty much help our residents if getting us another two inspectors in your department again, we need to go back to it because it's not helping. We're missing money, you know. People who are abusive is increased, is not decreased. They are abusers, you know, and they need to be kind of disciplined to stop doing it. And just the mere fact that you're saying that when the trucks go down certain blocks, there's double parking, then we need police, you know, to be able to do some type of following too, or the inspectors. Because I'm telling you, throughout this city is growing so rapidly, the behavior is crazy. That's what I'm saying. And until we start putting enforcement in to change people's behavior, it's not going to improve the city. It's not. Our garbage, you know, our trash pickup is getting worse. It's not getting better because people behavior. People are double parking because they can't find no parking. I get that. There's issues there, but people got 5 cars to a family. That's something we got to own up to too. It's not like one house got 1 car. That's over. You know, everybody's driving, even though we're trying to put more bikes on the street, everybody's still driving. We got cars that you just plug in with a battery, so it's saving on pollution. You thought we was going to do something different, but I see it's still increasing. So I'm saying, let's try what we keep hearing the director keep saying,